Now, I bet you Vinnie Coppola couldn't go in there and walk out with 8 DUIs.
No way.
I bet you that Vinnie Coppola couldn't pull a gun on a police officer and walk out.
No way.
And when I went to the police department and they pulled his record, the police officer that pulled his record asked me what was so special about this guy that the judge kept letting him off. But nobody could tell me what was so special about him.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Corrupt judge.
And welcome back to True Stories from a Real Private Eye. My name is Vinnie Coppola. With me, as always, is Lynn Lambdin, a real private investigator in Atlanta, Georgia. What do you got for us this week, Lynn?
Well, Vinny, I got a real a barn burner, as they say in the South where I come from.
All right.
I almost ended up in jail and on TV.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah. Oh, boy.
Well, this started out as what I thought was going to be an easy one, but I ended up pulling the hair out of my arms. Well, I ended up laughing in the end, but anyway.
Okay.
So I got a call from a law firm that I did quite a bit of work for at the time. We're going to call them Ham and Mayo, just to make it easy.
Ham and Mayo. Okay.
Ham and Mayo, and they want me to locate and serve a gentleman by the name of Enrique Ortez, and this was back in the early 2000s, and he's illegal here, and he's kind of hard to pinpoint because he never really stays anywhere. But the good news is he has a lot of criminal activity in his background. So I'm thinking, this shouldn't be too hard to find him. So our case is there was a school bus stopped, letting children off, and it had its little arm out, blinking, the red light's blinking. And here comes, and there's a police officer sitting here at the bus stop, and he's got his little radar gun out. And here comes Enrique, clocked at 78 miles an hour. Oh. He runs the arm, the stop sign. He ignores it.
Yeah.
Probably couldn't see it. And he hits the car sitting on the opposite side facing the school bus at 78 miles an hour, turns this truck over. It was a pickup truck, Chevy pickup truck, turns it over with 2 elderly people in it, a man and a woman, husband and wife. And we're going to call them the Burns family.
Okay.
And they were about, one of them, the husband was like 78 years old and the wife was like 72 years old. Pretty serious injuries for this older couple. And they both rushed to the hospital by ambulance. And so we're pretty serious injury. So they hired this law firm, Ham and Mayo, to represent them. And so the insurance company denies liability. He had insurance on the truck, or somebody in the family had insurance on the truck, but they deny liability because they
on Enrique Ortiz.
On Enrique Ortiz. Enrique Ortiz wasn't the insured driver. So what he had done is he insured the truck in an elderly member's name. We're figuring it's the grandmother, and he's just a driver on the vehicle. He's not listed as a driver, but he's a driver in the house. So they deny liability because they can't find him to get him served. And the law firm has had the sheriff's department trying to serve him, and they can't find him to get him served. So the insurance company has denied liability. This is their way of not covering it.
Right.
Well, Enrique was written a DUI in the process. Well, so this is a good case. This is a DUI case, and 2 elderly people hurt. And running in a school zone, in a school bus, letting off children. I mean, he could have killed children in this.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this was a pretty serious ordeal. But it gets better.
Okay.
So Ham and Mayo hires me to find him and serve him. I searched for this SOB, and I searched for him. I searched for him and over on Buford Highway, big Spanish community. Couldn't find him. I mean, I searched for him and searched for him. I'm sure that I had come across him several times, but no hablo English, couldn't find him. Nobody ever spoke any English, couldn't find him. So I started doing courthouse record searches on him, And I'd found out that he had had 7 prior DUIs.
Oh.
This was his 8th DUI. This is where it starts getting good. So I go over to the jailhouse to see if he's in jail. And I start doing a name search on him. And the jailer says, let me cross-reference that with his fingerprints. Well, he had 7 DUIs. This was his 8th DUI. And under Enrique Ortez. Well, he had several other charges and under Ricky Ortez with the same fingerprints. So, but they were criminal charges like, which DUI is criminal, but these were serious criminal charges. One was pulling a gun on a police officer.
Oops.
Aggravated assault on a police officer. And he was still walking the streets. And I got to noticing that every one of Ricky and Enrique was going in front of the same judge, Judge Thomas in DeKalb County. So I go talk to the attorney at Howman Mayo. I am working for Mayo, which is a fictitious name, but I'm not working for the first partner. I'm working for the second partner in the naming rights. And so we discuss it, and he goes, just do whatever you got to do to get him served. If they're not going to cover it if we don't get them served. So, it's a way for them to get out of it if we don't, serve them. So I said, okay. He said, just do whatever you got to do. He said, pull every string you got to pull, piss off whoever you got to piss off, do whatever you got to do. Well, I didn't tell him that when he said piss off whoever you got to piss off, that meant pissing off the judge.
Right.
So now I was kind of curious why the judge kept letting him out of jail, because if I had 8 DUIs, I'd be in jail.
Yeah.
I wanted to know why this guy wasn't in jail. So I go to the courthouse and I asked the clerk at the desk why he wasn't in jail. And she goes, I don't know. You have to ask the judge. So I go back to the judge's chambers and I asked the judge's secretary why he wasn't in jail. And the judge's secretary's name was Stephanie. And Stephanie said, well, I'll have to get with the judge. I don't know the answer to that. And so I left, and 2 or 3 days had passed, and I called Stephanie, and I'm starting to get a little irritated. I'm a pretty nice guy until I get irritated, and then I start losing patience, and then I'm not really nice. I kind of get sarcastic, and I kind of get nasty.
Okay.
And so I call Stephanie.
Understandable. Yeah.
Well, I call Stephanie, and this is where it gets good.
Okay.
I call Stephanie, and I said, Stephanie, are you going to tell me why Enrique and Ricky has... She said, well, they're not the same person. I said, so there's 2 people with the same fingerprints? I said, scientists tell me that that's impossible, that it can't happen, that there's no 2 people in the world that has the same fingerprints. I said, but your judge is telling me that he has 2 different fingerprints? I said, so Judge Thomas is smarter than every scientist in the world? Mm-hmm. And she said, I don't like your attitude. I said, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why does he have 8 DUIs and walking free? And I said, he's got a $3,000 fine that was suspended that he don't have to pay. And she said, well, the judge said that he don't speak English, so he can't work a job to make that kind of money to pay. So he suspended the fine.
Unbelievable.
I said, well, why is he not in jail? She said, because the judge didn't think that it was right to put him in jail because he didn't speak the language and didn't understand the sentence. I said, this is his 8th DUI.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, he obviously understands something. And I said, he could have killed children getting off the bus. And I kind of got irritated. And I said, well, I'd like to know. I said, his court order that I read at the court said he has probation. I said, can I have his probation officer and when he's going to show so I can serve him at his probation officer? She said, no, we can't give you that information. I said, why are you protecting him? I said, you don't protect the English speaking public, but you protect him.
Yeah.
I said, why are you protecting him, but not the English speaking? I said, he's here illegally. but you won't protect the people who are working and paying taxes and paying yours and the judge's salary. She said, well, let me talk to the judge. Day passes, nothing. Another day passes. And then all of a sudden, I guess get a little bit more irritated, and the attorney's calling and he's badgering me. Why don't you have this guy served? Why don't you have this guy served? So I call Stephanie, and I said, Stephanie, what's the judge's answer? She said, you can't have it. And I said, Stephanie, I said, why don't you tell the judge this for me? I said, you tell the judge when Enrique, Ricky, whatever you want to call him, gets his 9th DUI. I said, because it's going to happen. I said, he can't have 8 and not have 9. I said, when he gets his 9th DUI and kills somebody, I said, I hope it's a member of the judge's family that he kills.
No.
She said, the judge is not going to like you threatening him. I said, Stephanie, you're misunderstanding. I said, I don't want the judge to die.
Yeah.
I said, I want him to feel the pain of his family dying.
Yeah.
So she said, the judge is not going to like this at all. I said, good. So I hung up the phone, and this was back when we only had caller ID. This wasn't, I didn't even have a cell phone then.
Right.
So I hang up the phone, and about 10 minutes later, my phone starts ringing. And when it starts ringing, I see it says DeKalb County government. And I told my wife, I said, look, they would have talked to me now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just let it go to voicemail.
Nice.
And they would go to voicemail, and they'd hang up and call back. And then they'd hang up and call back. I let it go about 10 times to voicemail, and they left a voicemail every time.
Oh, yeah? Was it nasty?
It was that urgent. You need to call the judge back urgent. You need to call back urgent. And this was like 2:30 in the afternoon. So I finally, after about 12, 13 times of letting it go to voicemail, I picked up the phone and I said, what's so urgent, Stephanie? I said, what are you needing? She said, the judge wants you in his chambers right now. I'll tell you what, Vinnie, let's take a break and let's take get a minute word in from our sponsors right now. What do you think?
Okay. All right, let's do that. This episode is brought to you by Simple Funding, LLC. For all of your pre-settlement funding needs, contact Simple Funding, LLC to receive your money promptly. They're a customer-centric legal funding company that provides exceptional funding solutions at affordable rates. Simple Funding covers a diverse range of cases, including car accidents, slip and falls, worker compensation, medical malpractice, wrongful death, and more. They recognize that life goes on and you need to access your funds immediately, which is why they offer clients a swift and efficient process with minimal documentation requirements. For more information, visit simplefundingllc.com or contact them directly at 678-855-6232.
So the phone, I finally answered the phone after about 12 or 13 times, and I said, Stephanie, what is the urgency? I said, why are you calling me so urgent? She said, the judge wants you in his chambers right now. He is angry that you threatened his family. I said, Stephanie, I said, have no doubt I didn't threaten his family. I said, that was a hope and prayer on bended knees.
Yeah.
And I said, it's 2:30, 2:45 right now. I said, traffic's getting pretty heavy. I said, I probably can't be there till 5. I said, but you tell the judge to wait on me. I said, me and 3 news media is on our way. We'll be right there. I said, because I've already talked to the news.
Yeah.
And I said, they're really interested in this story. I said, but we're on our way. Have no doubt. We'll be there. I said, tell the judge not to leave.
Oh, boy.
And I hung up the phone. Vinnie, I guarantee you it was less than 90 seconds. My phone starts blowing up again. I won't answer it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just letting it ring. I hit how many nonstop. They wouldn't even letting it go to voicemail. They'd just ring it and ring it. When it'd go to voicemail, they'd hang up. They wouldn't even leave a voicemail. They'd call right back.
Right.
I sat there for about 15 minutes and laughed.
Yeah.
I just laughing. And then I finally said, Stephanie, I said, I told you, I'm working on the news media. What's the problem? Stephanie said, here is Enrique's, we have set it up for him to be at probation here in DeKalb County today. she said, the judge said, you better not bring the news media, and he will be there for you to serve him this afternoon. I said, what's the problem, Stephanie? I said, if the judge can discipline me in private, he can discipline me in front of the news media. I said, if I done something wrong, I said, it's wrong in front of the news media, right? I said, put the judge on the phone.
Yeah. Good for you.
And she said, no, you just need to serve him. So at this point, I had to make a decision. I said, do I really want to push this, or do I want to blow up this case, or do I just serve him and go on? Because it really wasn't my case. It was the attorney's case. And I didn't want to blow up the attorney's case. So I just had to, and I told her, I said, Stephanie, I said, it's about 4:30 now. I said, it's about 3:30 now, 3:45. I said, you wasted too much time. I said, I don't think I can be there by 5 o'clock. I said, you tell the probation officer I'll be there when I get there. She said, what time do you think you can get there? I said, I don't know. Traffic's going to be heavy. I said, I'm all the way over here in Sandy Springs, because I lived over in Sandy Springs at the time. I said, I'm all the way over here in Sandy Springs. And I said, I'm going to grab me a bite to eat. It's getting late. I said, I can probably be there by 6:30, 7 o'clock. She said, well, you need to get here as soon as you can. I rolled in at 7:30.
Nice.
And they had him sitting there.
Yeah.
Now, this is a guy that I tried to serve that I had actually, in fact, had found and had contact with, and he'd look at me and go, no hablo English, no hablo English.
Yeah.
And the judge suspended his fine because he couldn't speak English. And when said because he couldn't work because he couldn't speak any English, had let him off of 7, now 8 DUIs because he couldn't speak English, let him off of pulling a gun on a police officer and aggravated assault on a police officer because he couldn't speak English. And when I handed him his papers, he said, what is this, in plain English?
Yeah, I bet.
And when I turned to walk away, he said, you motherfucker.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, this is a guy who couldn't speak English.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah,
whatever works.
Yeah, yeah. Now, if this is not one of the most corrupt judges,
yeah.
Now I bet you Vinnie Coppola couldn't go in there and walk out with 8 DUIs.
No way.
I bet you that Vinnie Coppola couldn't pull a gun on a police officer and walk out.
No way.
And when I went to the police department and they pulled his record, the police officer that pulled his record asked me what was so special about this guy that the judge kept letting him off. But nobody could tell me what was so special about him.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Corrupt judge.
You think he was getting like a little bit of he was getting greased a little bit? You think
I wouldn't think so. I mean, this guy, when I served him, he didn't look. He lived over off of Buford Highway in an old crummy apartment. I mean, he didn't look like he had any money to grease anybody's palms.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe the judge and the attorney that he hired that were know each other. But I'll tell you what I've done in this story. I have named a few people. A few of the names I used were correct. It could have been the family's name. It could have been the defendant's name. It could have been the judge's name. It could have been the secretary's name. But the people involved know the names that I used. And if they hear this story, let them send us an email. Let us come on here and explain it to us.
Yeah.
I mean, the judge's secretary may not work for the judge anymore. I don't know. I'll tell you, I have no idea. I'll check and see. Yeah. And if she don't, maybe she'll listen to it. Maybe she'll come on here and talk to us. Maybe she'll tell us.
Yeah.
Maybe the corrupt judge will come on here and tell us. Maybe he'll, if the corrupt judge wants to come on here and have a conversation and wants to hide his identity, we'll be more than happy to blur out his face and hide his identity. We won't never tell anybody who he is.
Yeah, we just want to know why.
We want to know why he's corrupt.
Yeah,
because he's corrupt. Because for somebody to this man, this drunk, he was obviously a drunk.
Right.
Hit a couple. The man was 78 and the woman was 72, I do believe, 76 and 74, somewhere in that neighborhood. They were both in their mid to late 70s.
Right.
And when he hit him at 78 mile an hour. The police officer was sitting there at the bus stop clocking because it was a heavily accident area.
Yeah.
And he clocked them. It wasn't a hearsay. It wasn't a maybe or an accident reconstruction. He clocked them with his radar gun. He hit them at 78 mile an hour and never hit the brakes. And the truck flipped over. When he hit that old couple, their truck flipped over. They both had serious injury.
Yeah, could have died.
Could have died.
Yeah.
And this judge...
And at the scene, they did a field sobriety test on him.
They did a field sobriety test, and they took him to the hospital, and he drew blood.
And so he was definitely over the limit.
He was definitely over the limit.
So he went to the hospital. He got treatment or whatever. Then they just let him walk.
Well, they took him to jail. They booked him in the jail. He bonded out. And then they wrote him the citation and wrote him a DUI and reckless driving and everything else. And the judge dropped everything except the DUI, dropped the reckless driving. And
so let me see if I get the timeline right. So he hits the car. He goes to the hospital because he gets injured himself. Enrique Ortiz gets injured himself.
Well, Enrique didn't get injured. They took him and they drew blood.
Okay, they took him in. They drew blood. They took him to jail.
They took him to jail.
He was probably there for a couple of weeks while they waited for the court to step in front of the judge, right?
I don't know how long he was there. I know he bonded out. He didn't stay there until his court date. He bonded out.
Okay, so he bonds out. He shows up for his court date, and the judge just drops all charges.
Well, basically, he didn't drop them. He convicted him of the 8th DUI, but he gave him time served, suspended sentence, suspended fine, and put him on probation for a year and a half.
So that all happens. And then this older couple, they get out of the hospital. Now they're like, hey, we're going to get some money out of this. This guy caused us all these problems. They build that case, and now they can't find Enrique Cortez. Is that sound right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go.
And not only that, but the Burns family that was injured so bad really didn't profit anything from it because they were in an older truck. And it was paid for. They got $1,500, $2,000 out of that, but they had to go buy a new vehicle. And then
they should at least get some money for the hospital's bills.
Well, they got money for their injuries, but it all went towards their injuries.
Yeah,
it wasn't like they walked away with a bunch of money in their pocket. He had state minimum insurance, which was $25,000. Right. So each of them got $25,000. But when you stay in the hospital for a week,
it's like quick.
It goes. Do they have? I mean, so basically, they walk away owing the hospital money.
Yeah.
They got health insurance, but it's retirement and it's Medicare, or Medicaid and Medicare, and the law says you have to reimburse Medicare for everything they pay.
Yeah.
So they really, they get nothing. So they walk away with, the attorney gets their 33%. And they walk away with nothing. And you can't blame the attorney for getting their money. The attorney did their job.
Right. Well, the fact that the Burns family didn't get, any compensation is a tragedy. But what's a real tragedy is that this idiot keeps getting off for doing all these wrong things. That's just the more I hear about this type of corruption going on in the system, the more depressing it gets. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so let's just say that Vinnie's driving around 285 through DeKalb County with his kids, and Enrique barrels out onto 285 and hits his car, drunk.
Yeah.
And it's his 9th or 10th DUI.
Yeah.
I mean, what does Vinnie do? Is Vinnie justified for hunting him down and killing him? I mean, God forbid that one of your children gets paralyzed or killed.
Yeah. Oof.
I mean, if it was my child, or if it was my mother and my father that he had hit, I'd hunt him down and kill him.
Yeah.
I'd cut his throat and watch him bleed to death and tell him why he was bleeding to death.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then again, I go to prison for the rest of my life. And Enrique gets out here and pulls guns on police and aggravated assault and 8, 9 DUIs, and the judge just pats him on the back and smiles as he walks out.
Yeah.
Who's to blame? Enrique or the judge?
Yeah, the judge.
The judge.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
We can't have that kind of crap going on.
I mean, what good is the judicial system if that's allowed to happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is right here in DeKalb County.
Yeah.
And I'm on those streets every day. And if you've ever traveled to Augusta or anywhere out I-20, you've traveled those same streets.
Yeah. I sure have.
Yeah. And this happened while a school bus was letting children off after school.
Horrifying.
And this wasn't high school children they were letting off. This was like at 2:30 in the afternoon. This was young kindergarten through 8th grade children.
Yeah. Yeah. Horrifying. Yeah.
Or not, wouldn't even be kindergarten through 8th grade. This would be like kindergarten through 6th grade.
Yeah. Yeah. Grade school.
Yeah. So what if it was your kid they were letting off the school bus and he would have missed? What if he would have swerved to try to miss the car in front of him? Thank God that he was so drunk that he didn't see the truck sitting there and he hit the truck instead of trying to swerve and miss him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what do you? I mean, who do you take your anger out on at that point?
I know.
Enrique or the judge?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I would like for somebody out of either Sandy Springs judicial system to call in or from DeKalb County to call in and just discuss it. No arguing.
To explain themselves.
Just to explain how they laid their head down on the pillow at night and go to sleep, or just explain why or how they justify doing what they do.
Yeah. I have a feeling we're never going to hear from them, Lynn.
Well, Vinnie, you know we're never going to hear from them.
We're never going to hear from them. I mean, they're probably. I mean, they first of all, I guarantee you, they're not having any problem sleeping at night. They've long since forgotten this. They got no conscience whatsoever. All they care about is their power. They got their power. They're still in power, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're retired by now. But that's it. Now they're just living their life. They have long since forgotten about this incident, and it's just sad.
I doubt that they may have forgotten this incident, Vinnie, but I just about bet you that this is not the only one.
Oh,
I bet you that there's a
100%.
long list of them.
100%. There's a long list of crap that this judge let slide through the system. I would bet every penny I own, like going to Vegas and just putting it on red. Roll that little whatever it is, that wheel.
Well,
I'll bet it all. But yeah, even if they hear this episode, they wouldn't have the balls to come on here and basically justify what they did. They wouldn't have the balls.
Well, look at it this way. Look at Fred Tokars. Everybody knows who Fred Tokars is. You know who Fred Tokars is?
Refresh my memory, and for those who don't know.
Fred Tokars is the Atlanta attorney who was a part-time judge who was wanted a divorce, and instead of getting a divorce, he had his wife killed. If somebody, the people who worked with him in the judicial system and worked around him in the judicial system knew that he was a bad guy. And if they would have taken him out, I don't mean kill him, but I mean if they would have brought him up on his crimes when he was committing them in the judicial system, maybe they would have prevented him from killing his wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this judge that we refer to as Judge Thomas, if someone that works with him in the system would have taken him out, maybe somebody's life would have been saved.
Mr. and Mrs. Burns certainly wouldn't have been injured.
Mr. and Mrs. Burns surely wouldn't have been injured.
Right.
And the 7 other people or the 6 other people in front of them wouldn't have been injured.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's amazing how I mean, the corruption involved in our system is just rampant.
Yeah.
I'm one person,
Yeah.
and I see it.
Yeah.
And I really couldn't do anything about it at the time, because if I would have blew this case up, then I would have never gotten work in this city again.
Right.
So I kind of had to let it go in order for the attorney to win his case.
Yeah.
And once the attorney won his case, then it's really too late to do anything. I raised hell about it. I made noise about it, and I did alert the news media, but the news media really wasn't interested in it, and the judge didn't know, but the news media wouldn't even going to go out there with me that day.
Yeah.
I was just bluffing.
Yeah. Yeah.
They really wasn't. The news media wouldn't even talk to me about it. They didn't care.
It was a great bluff, man. The lawyer said, "Do what you have to do." You did what you had to do, and you got him served.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So yeah, it was a great bluff.
Well, the judge surely thought that I had the news media on my side.
Yeah.
See, the judge knew that he was so wrong, that he was so afraid
Of
that the news media was going to take up that story.
Yeah.
That's how afraid that's how afraid that judge was.
That's how well aware he was of what he had done and what he was doing.
Exactly.
He probably had even worse past, something in his past that he let slide through.
Yep. Yeah. And he was afraid would come out.
Well, that's crazy.
He was afraid that news media would dig into him and find something else. So
yeah.
So he actually had the probation officer call Enrique and had Enrique come in and sit there from about 3:45 till 7:30 until I got there.
Yeah.
And I just jacked around. I just went and ate, fooled around.
Yeah.
Got there in park, sat there in my car for 30 minutes because they made me so mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I had intended on just jerking them around as much as they jerked me around.
Good for you. Yeah.
Because they really had made me mad by that point.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they had made me angry. And the part that made me the angriest is the judge kept letting him go with all of those DUIs. And then they had the nerve to tell me, well, the judge is not sure that it's the same person, even though the fingerprints match.
That was bullshit.
Yeah. Come on, give me a break.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let me tell you a funny story, Vinnie.
He thought that would make you go away. That would make you go away. And if you didn't know the stuff that you knew, or wasn't as persistent as you are, you may have. But it didn't work on you. It didn't work.
Well, I'll tell you a secret, Vinnie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to make me go away. But one way to make sure that I will never go away is treat me like I'm stupid.
Yeah, yeah.
When you start treating me like I'm stupid, you'll never make me go away.
Yeah.
Because the minute that you start treating me like I'm stupid,
I
know that I'm on to something.
Right. Yeah.
That's how I know I got you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so when you tell me, well, they're not sure that it's the same person and the fingerprints match, I know I'm on to something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because now you're treating me like I'm too dumb to know.
Right, right.
That you're telling me that two people can have the same fingerprints?
Yeah.
Well, scientists say that that's never happened in the history of the world.
Right.
But Judge Thomas can figure that out.
Yeah, the entitlement of this judge to think that by telling you that you would go away is...
But see, here's how I look at that.
Off the charts.
Well, here's how I look at that, Vinnie. This judge thinks that I am so stupid that he can tell me that two people have the same fingerprints.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's what pissed me off.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me tell you a funny story.
Okay.
I'm down in South Georgia. I mean, all the way down in the far southeast corner. I mean, where it's nothing but cornfields. You know, where you get down there and you drive for hours and you see nothing but corn.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're in the west corner.
The northwest corner. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the southwest corner.
Southwest corner. Yeah.
Southwest corner. Yeah. And Vinnie, I've been driving through these cornfields, and it's just a maze, really. You drive and then there's a street comes in here, and then you drive and then there's a street over here, and I'm just driving and it's just nothing but corn.
Right.
But there's one good thing about it. I got a good radio station playing Southern rock.
Okay.
And Leonard Skinner comes on the radio, and they're playing Sweet Home Alabama.
All right.
I got it cranked up.
Heck yeah.
I got the windows rolled down, and I'm flying. Speed limit 65, and I'm probably doing 85.
Okay.
And this little side street here, you can't see because there's corn everywhere.
Yeah.
I pass that side street, out comes this cop.
Yeah.
And I look in my rearview mirror, and he's got me lit up.
Yeah, sure.
And I pull over, and I never turn my radio down. I got Leonard Skinner blasting.
Yeah.
And he walks up to the car. I got my driver's license and insurance card in my hand. And it's right at the end of Sweet Home Alabama, when they're just jamming out.
Yeah, yeah.
And he walks up to my car, nice looking guy. And he walks up to my car, and I just hold my finger up and I say, and I point at the radio.
Yeah.
He kind of steps back and puts his hands on his sides.
Yeah.
And the song goes off the radio, and it was like, it wasn't but about 8 or 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And I reach over and I turn the radio down and I say, "Yes, officer, how can I help you?"
Yeah.
And he looks over at me and he went, he waves me off. He walks back and he gets in his car.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what is this guy doing?
Really? Yeah.
But I had my driver's license and my insurance card in my hand. You could tell I wasn't a threat.
Yeah.
So he goes back and he gets in his car, and he turns his lights off, and he reaches out the window and he waves me on.
Yeah.
So I pull out, and I'm only like 2 or 3 miles from the interstate. So I go up and I turn right, and he stays behind me. Yeah. Not close behind me, but pretty, 8 or 10 car lengths behind me. So I go up and I see a Dairy Queen. I said, well, I'm going to stop and give me something to eat. Because I hadn't ate all day. I'd been, you drive for 2.5 hours and it's nothing but corn and you're just bored. And
yeah.
So I pull into Dairy Queen. He pulls in behind me and I said, oh, now he's going to write me a ticket.
Yeah.
And I walk into Dairy Queen. He walks in and he just looks at me and he goes, slow it down, boy. He walks back out and he gets in his car. That's all he said to me.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he liked Sweet Home Alabama too.
Yeah. You're all right. Just slow down.
That's all he said. Is he walked in and he put his hands in his pocket and he goes, slow it down, boy.
Yeah. He might have been from Alabama.
He might have been.
Yeah.
But that's all he said to me, and I'll never forget that. That was
that's great.
Pretty funny. And I'll tell you where I got that from. I always, James Gregory.
Yeah.
God rest his soul, love him to death.
Good friend of ours.
He always said, I got pulled over. He said, police officers don't have a sense of humor. He said, I got pulled over. He asked me for my driver's license, and I told him if I could see his gun.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid to do that.
Yeah. He didn't say. Actually, I remember. I know the story you're talking about. He goes, the officer comes up and goes, "Can I see your driver's license registration?" He goes, "Only if I can play with your gun."
Yeah.
If I can play with your gun. Yeah.
So when he walked up to the car and I was just jamming out and I didn't even turn the radio down. I just went, because it was right at the end of the song.
Right.
One second.
I just want to hear the whole thing. Yeah. Hey, this was a good one, man. If anybody knows of the story that Lynn is talking about, has any connection to the people involved, get the word to them. Let them know that we want to talk to them. We want to hear why this judge was willing to let this person walk with 8 DUIs. And if you know anything else about Enrique, guy's probably in jail now on his 15th DUI by now, or any information about the Burns family, we'd love to hear it. Just some updates. Hopefully they're okay. This was a good one.
I would say that the Burns family is probably no longer with us because they were approaching their 80s, and that was 25 years ago.
Oh, okay. Well, God bless them.
But if their family is still living, we'd love to talk to you.
Love to talk to you. Love to hear if everything was okay with them later in life, with their hopefully they didn't have any permanent issues. But holy cow, would love to hear why this judge just let this person skate over and over and over. And if you'd like to come on and debate us, yeah, we'll do that.
We'd love to talk to you.
We'd love to talk to you. This was this was great. We appreciate you being here. I'm going to remind you one more time, if you can, please don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, wherever you get this podcast, whichever platform you use. Please subscribe. That really, really helps out our visibility. And leave a comment or a review. Tell us what you think, whether it's good or bad. We'd love to hear you.
And if you have any questions about anything, just shoot us an email, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions.
And that goes for law-related stuff too. Lynn has been in this business so long, he could probably answer quite accurately any legal question you might have. And you don't have to consult with a lawyer. Talk to Lynn. If he can't answer the question, he knows somebody that can, and that is a free service that we will offer to you. Write us an email if you have any questions. And if you need to serve someone some papers, you need somebody surveilled, if you need to find somebody, a lost love or something like that, Lynn Lambdin is the best. Tell them your website, Lynn.
It's called LWIAS.com. Once again, that is LWIAS.com.
And once again, thank you, Simple Funding, for sponsoring this episode. We do appreciate it so much. You guys are great. We love that you're here. We'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.